Hey guys, it's Carrie and Jeremy.
And this is our beautiful son, Abram Levi Sorensen.
He was 2 weeks old. He was 2 weeks old yesterday. And yeah, we wanted to come on here and just tell you guys kind of our birth story and how he came into the world. So, Abram came at 38 weeks and 1 day, all on his own. If you've been following our journey, our last video, we told you guys that we had a condition called polyhydramnios, which means I had a lot of extra fluid. And with that, you can often go into labor early because of the weight of the fluid and things like that. So it's one of those things where there's no telling if he came early just because he was coming early or if it was because of the extra fluid. But either way, he came almost 2 weeks early and I am so grateful. I was definitely done being pregnant. It's funny, the day before he came, I definitely had almost like a mental breakdown. And I remember just like yelling at my belly, like, get out! Like, right. I'm done. So,
it's intense.
Yeah. And it's funny, he came on the 20th of July and we had actually both prayed that he would come on that day specifically. So it's really cool that that's when he came. So the day before I went into labor, I had been having like contractions every 2 minutes, but I've been having that since like 35, 36 weeks. I've been having bouts of contractions every 2 minutes, and some of them are really painful. So I had the same thing that Saturday, the 19th of July, and didn't really think much of it. But I do remember telling Jeremy, like, something's different. My cervix feels different. I definitely feel something. What'd you say?
I said something along the lines like, sure it is, because throughout the pregnancy she's always felt weird feelings and tinglies and stuff like that, so I just figured it's the same thing she's been experiencing, just maybe different in some way.
Yeah. But I definitely did feel different. I don't know if it was pressure or because I was dilating. Something just felt different down there. So anyway, I went to bed. I was sleeping in a separate room mainly because if my water broke, we didn't want to ruin our mattress, like our really nice king mattress. We'd rather ruin, we have bunk beds in one of our rooms, and we'd rather ruin like a thin bunk bed mattress. Because they told us with my excess fluid that when my water breaks, wherever I'm at, I'm going to ruin that mattress or seat. So we had also put a trash bag and a beach towel down in our car, like on the passenger seat in case it broke while we were driving. So anyway, I was sleeping and I felt kind of just like a pop. And immediately started to feel something like warm. So I jumped out of bed really quick, and I think I got like 3 dots on the bed, like barely anything, which is great. I didn't ruin the bed. But I jumped out and it just like gushed all over the floor, and I remember I started screaming for Jeremy because, I don't know if I explained this in the previous video as well, with poly, with the excess fluid, it can cause cord prolapse or like a placenta abruption. So when your water breaks, you can't labor at home. You have to rush straight to the hospital. So luckily my hospital bags were already packed. Everything was ready to go. I don't know what made me think to pack it so early, but I'm glad I did. And I was screaming for Jeremy. He ran in there, and I remember like I was just like, what do I do? I didn't know whether do I walk to the bathroom and just trail water the whole way? Do I grab a blanket? And I think you went and grabbed a towel for me.
Probably.
Yeah, I think I used a towel to walk all the way to the bathroom, but there was so much fluid. It did not stop. There was just huge puddles on the floor. It kept coming in the toilet. I think I put on like some huge pads like 3 or 4 times before I even left the house. And we from the time my water broke to the time we got to the hospital was
40 minutes altogether?
Well, my water broke at 3:50, and I think we got to the hospital at 4:20. So that's 30 minutes.
So not very long.
And it's a 20-minute drive. Like 15, 20 minutes.
And what time in the morning was it? It was like 3 or 4?
Yeah, 3:50 my water broke.
Yeah.
And we got to the hospital at 4:20.
We were stumbling around. I was trying to get things together.
We were both like, Well, you were tired. I was more just frantic, like, okay, are things packed? Okay. And I was just scared. I was so scared that like my cord could be prolapsing, or you know what I mean, something could be wrong with him. So I remember I finally like changed my clothes and put on another huge pad, like my 5th one, and we got out the door, he packed everything, and like right before I got in the car, it just like gushed again. just with every little contraction, and it like soaked my shoes, and I was like, well, these are my only last pants. So I had changed shorts and pants multiple times before we left because they kept getting soaked. But anyway,
so I gotta get you more flip-flops, like new ones.
Yeah, my flip-flops were kind of ruined. Anyway, one of the cool things is my contractions pretty much started immediately. Like when my water broke, I remember getting on the toilet and being like, oh, there's a contraction. And it felt pretty similar to what I've been experiencing like since 35, 36 weeks. So it wasn't anything that was like, oh, this is real labor. You know, it was just a typical like, oh, contractions, okay. But they started immediately, and I know some people, it can take hours, if not a day or two, before the contractions even start after their water break. So I was very grateful it started immediately. All the way to the hospital, I was getting contractions, like, I would say every probably like 4 minutes, maybe not that often. We got into the hospital, and they weighed me, which is really weird. I'm like soaking, dripping wet, and like step on a scale, which was really weird.
Yeah, as well.
And so then they got me into the room, got me into the gown and everything, and hooked me up to the monitors. And my contractions were coming every 2 minutes at that point. And this was probably at like probably closer to 5 o'clock by the time that happened, 5 a.m. on the 20th. So I also had to hear his heartbeat. Like as soon as they put the monitor on, I could hear his heartbeat. I was like, okay, I can breathe, okay. Like I know he's okay, which there was still risk of different things happening with the poly, but just hearing that he was okay at that point made me feel a lot better. So they left me on the monitors for a while, and it was really itchy because of course I have the PUPS condition, the itching. So that was really miserable. I was like, please get it off, please get it off. So then they came in, drew my blood, and they wanted to put in a hep lock in my arm or my wrist.
For IVs and fluids.
Yeah, which is typical. Even if you want a natural birth, they'll put in a hep lock just in case emergency. And I remember asking her, I was like, can we please just wait a little bit? I was like, these contractions are getting pretty painful, and I know that IVs usually bother me and are pretty painful, and that's like the last thing I want is my wrist like throbbing. And so she was like, okay, we can wait a little bit longer. And then my nurse kept too, she was like, are you planning an epidural? And I was like, no, I'm planning a natural birth. She goes, well, just so you know, if you want an epidural, you have to watch a video, which I've never heard of that. I've asked my friends, they've never heard of that. It's so weird. But anyway, so she was like, you have to watch a video. And I was like, I don't want to watch the video. And she's like, okay. And she brought it up, I think, a few more times. And I think I finally told her, I was like, if I watch the video, I'm going to be more likely to get the epidural. So I'm like, I don't want to watch the video. And she's like, okay. I think she definitely thought I wasn't going to go natural, because she was like, okay, well, just so you know, you're going to have to watch the video when you're in like full active labor. But I'm really grateful I didn't watch that video, because I think it would have been an easy kind of out that the video was done. And yeah. So anyway, the midwife came in at 7:20. So I'd been in labor at that point for 2 hours, 2.5 hours. She came in and checked me, and I was at 2 centimeters, 90% effaced, I believe, and -2 station, which was great for me because literally a week before I was 0 dilated, 0% effaced, and like no station because I had all the fluid. The baby was just like floating. So that was good that I had some progress at that point. So yeah, at that point the contractions definitely started to get stronger. I remember I got on the ball, like the birthing ball, and we're just kind of rocking and doing figure eights. And I'm thinking, see, I don't know the exact timelines, but I think it was close to 9 o'clock because we had a new midwife come in. I got in the shower and just like shaved my legs and got clean. I took a shower the night before, but I just felt dirty with all the fluid, you know, leaking, which kept leaking nonstop, just gushes and gushes and gushes of fluid. I never knew there could be that much fluid in my body. But I took a shower, and I would have to stop every like, you know, 1.5 to 2 minutes and just breathe through a contraction. And Jeremy stood outside the shower, and I'd be like, okay, shampoo. And he'd give me a little dab of shampoo, and I'd wash my hair, and I'd have to stop and rinse, and I'd be like, okay, conditioner. And he would hand me like everything that I needed. So after I took the shower, I got out, and they filled up the jacuzzi tub. It has like jets in it. And so I was in the jacuzzi tub for about an hour and a half, I believe, an hour and a half. The new midwife came in, who is amazing, and I'll talk about her in a minute, but she came in and kind of coached me through some contractions, and she said one thing that I think really helped me, and she said, you know, imagine the contractions are, you have to pick something visual, and she said, imagine the contractions are pushing you away from the pain. Like, I think that's what she said. And for some reason, I don't know if anybody out there has ever played Mario Party, but there's a game in Mario Party where you're on a boat and you have to breathe, like you have to breathe and it pushes you away from shore, like huffing.
Nintendo 64 Mario Party?
Nintendo 64 Mario Party, yeah, the old school one. And for some reason, that was my visualization. I pictured that I was in a boat and every breath, like, ooh, ooh, like through the contractions was like pushing me away from shore, which I don't know, I'd want to go away from shore, but I guess shore was where the pain was. So that was my visualization. So, yeah. I was in the jet for a while and finally she said, "You want me to pull out the birthing pool?" And I was like, "Yes." So they went and got the birthing pool and set that up in the main, you know, delivery room. And I was in the birthing pool from probably about 10 o'clock. And I remember she checked me, I remember looking at the clock a couple times. And one time I remember it said 11:30 or 11:45. So that's when she checked me. I hadn't been checked since 7 in the morning. She checked me around 11 and she's like, "Okay, you're 60%, you're 6 centimeters, 100% effaced." And I don't remember the station, but I was like, okay. And I remember feeling a little discouraged, like, which I shouldn't have, because 6 centimeters, that's huge. But I just wanted to be done. So I was like, oh my word, I have a lot more to go. All right, so I remember at this point, Jeremy went and got the dilation chart that shows how dilated you are, just so you could see what it looked like. And that was pretty cool. I remember taking like Instagram, or no, you were taking iPhone pictures of it. Yeah. So that was around 11:30, 11:45. Around that time, it was really intense. I was definitely moaning, groaning, huffing, puffing, screaming. And if you like, one thing that I never expected was to feel like my body was taking over. If you've ever had food poisoning and like projectile vomiting, that feeling where like your body does it for you, my body started like pushing. Like my stomach was like contracting and it would like it would push for me. Yeah. So that was really crazy. Yeah, around 11:30, 11:45, I was 6 centimeters. I stayed in the pool and was laboring. And I remember at that point, it was pretty intense. I remember I started screaming at that point. And my midwife was definitely trying to talk me through them, so not to scream, you know, to put my energy into letting the pain take over. And a lot of just Bradley method style of laboring, which she was amazing. I remember I had my midwife around the pool and she was like squeezing my hips together during the contractions. And then I would have Jeremy, he was standing in front of me. I was like leaning over the edge of the pool and he was standing in front of me. I would grab his legs and he would put pressure on some points in my back as well. And then I had the nurse pouring water, like warm or hot water, like over my back.
Warm water, yeah.
It helped so much. It was still horrible, but it helped so much. So yeah, I remember I looked at the clock again, I think around 12:45 to 1 o'clock. She checked me again and I was 8 to 9 centimeters. And she could start to feel his head. She said there was a lip, kind of a lip of my cervix hanging out there. So she let me stay in the pool for just a little bit longer, I think till about 1:30. But she was like, we really need to get out soon because at our hospital, you're allowed to labor in the pool, but as of right now, you're not allowed to birth in the pool. I'm not allowed to give birth to him. So around 1:30, I believe, she had me get out of the pool, and that was horrible. Like just walking with the head, like, like his head's coming out, like it's down there, and I'm like moving and walking, like that is horrible. So she had me get out of the pool, and the first position I tried on the bed was with the back of the bed kind of sat up, and I was like doing the same thing, like kind of leaning over the back of the bed. And my body was starting to push again, just like push on its own. And she's like, you're 10, like around like 1:45 to 2 o'clock, I was 10 centimeters, but there was still a little bit of a lip. So she had to actually like, yeah, the size of his head basically. So she had to actually put her fingers up there, push the lip to the side, and have me push through to get that lip. Oh my word, it was awful. So I was on the bed pushing, and that wasn't working. So she had me turn over, and I used the birthing bar a little bit, and that wasn't working. And the thing is, and she kept saying this, she's like, you're scared of the pain. And I was like, I am. But I wasn't fully pushing into it. I was too scared because it hurt so bad to fully push into it. So I was kind of holding back when I was pushing. So finally, she had me kind of lay somewhat reclined on my back and to the side. And at this point, I was 10 centimeters and pushing, And I remember saying I felt like I was pushing into a wall. Like,
yeah, into a wall. That's what the script is.
Yeah, and the only way, I was kind of telling Jeremy this the other day, like, he was like, you kept saying a wall, you kept saying a wall, but what it is like, imagine if you're pushing a brick wall, like you're kind of like pushing into the wall, and you're using all your might, your strength, you're exhausted, and you're getting nowhere. Like, you can't push over a brick wall. Like, there's nothing you can do to push it over. And that's kind of how I felt. Like, I felt like I was pushing and I was making no progress. I was like, this is not going to do anything. Like, it just felt like I wasn't doing anything. So I kept pushing, and I remember at one point I was like screaming, and I was like, what did I say? I said, I don't want to do this anymore. Are we close?
Or those lucky people get medicine.
Yeah. There was one point where I said, those lucky people who get medicine. And I remember my midwife said, she goes, no, they can't do what you're doing. They can't do what you're doing. You're doing it. You're doing it. And I remember when I was really close, I said, I don't want to do this anymore. I can't do this. And the nurse was on my right side, and she said, do you see what your midwife's doing? And I looked over, and she was putting on like the scrubs. And Jeremy was putting on gloves, and she goes, what do you think that means? And I was like, is he close? And she was like, yes. Because it just felt like I had been doing this forever, you know? So yeah, we kept pushing, and at one point I could feel the head, like she said, reach down, and I could feel just the tip of his head. And that, I think, gave me kind of my second wind, because, are you gonna wake up? I think that gave me my second wind, because feeling his head, I realized finally that like what I was doing was actually doing something. So the rest of the time I pretty much kept my fingers down there and felt his head, and through each push I could feel it come out a little bit more. And yeah, what happened from there? And the thing is like, I don't remember a ton of this because I was in so much pain. Like, Jeremy remembers a lot more than I do, because all I could focus on was getting through the next minute. So I'm gonna pee. But at this point, I'm still in so much pain that I'm not like, I don't know. Like, I feel like natural birth is so awesome in one aspect, but in another aspect, you don't really like enjoy it, which labor's not supposed to be enjoyable. It's not, it's work. But I see people who have epidurals, they get to like laugh through it, and like when the baby comes out, they get to cry and really experience that moment. I was still in so much pain and like in so much shock of what was happening that I'm just like, ah. So we wanted Jeremy to deliver him and him to be put directly on my chest. We wanted Jeremy to announce the gender, not the midwives. One thing I wanted to is I didn't want to be coached during pushing, meaning I didn't want them to be counting like 1, 2, 3, you know. I wanted my body knows what to do. And so they were fine with that. They did delayed cord clamping. How long would you say that they didn't cut the cord?
Ooh, probably like 10 to 15 minutes,
probably.
Yeah, a while. And she also like drained the cord too, where he got nutrients.
What it's called is like milking the cord. Yeah. And I think it was 10 or 15 minutes. So she milked the cord, waited till it stopped pulsing, then milked it. Then Jeremy had to cut it.
It's really tough too. At first, she gave me the little shears, the little scissors, and I thought it'd be really easy. So I went up, and it like falls out, and it's all lubricated, and so we had to jam it up there twice, and then do little snips, and I got it. That's crazy. Yeah,
it looked thick and it looks crazy. So they put him on my chest, and we did skin to skin for an hour. They leave him on there for 45 minutes minimum, but we did an hour. And it was really cool because he immediately went to like he was looking for my boob, like he knew what to do, you know. He immediately started searching for it. So
you did that while they did stitching on you.
Yeah. They were sewing me up at this point, which is another downside from a natural birth, is you don't have an epidural. So I could feel the needles to numb me. Like, they had to stick needles in there to actually numb the area for stitching, which I only had 2 first-degree tears, which is not very bad. But even once they numbed me, there were still parts where I could feel them sewing me up, and I'm like, I can feel that! And so it was hard because even though he's on my chest and I want to be enjoying him, it's hard to, because not only am I exhausted, but then, like, you know, I'm in pain from them sewing me and like trying to get the placenta out. Oh, it was bad. And finally, when they were done and left, and he actually latched on and started nursing, that's when I lost it. That's when I actually was like, oh, I have a son, I have a baby. And that's when I started crying, and it was like, the real moment hit, you know? For you, it was like birth, like right when he came out, right?
I don't know. I had all kinds of little moments.
You cried a little bit. Like
I didn't have any big cry fest.
No, not a big one, but you choked up.
Yeah, I choked up when I saw her in pain during laboring, because it's just like, ooh, you know, it hurts me seeing her hurt so much.
Yeah.
And I get choked up every now and then when she'd say, "This is our boy, you know, this is who we've waited for so long."
Yeah.
And it hit me hard.
Yeah. And I remember asking you, like, it was probably, I think he was a day old. I remember asking Jeremy, like, I was like, "This is our son." And I was like, "Can you pray over him?" And we both lost it. Like, just, I think the first time we prayed over him together, like, Jeremy had moments because I had been, like, knocked out, like, sleeping, where he prayed over him. But just, like, praying over him as a couple, like,
as a family,
oh, like, this is the baby we've prayed for, prayed in my belly, and now we're here touching him, you know, and like, we get to pray over him. That was so cool. We did have a birth photographer, so we'll be doing a whole separate video sharing with you guys some of the really cool images that were taken during the labor. But yeah, I think, and then just emotionally looking back, I'm trying to think of just during the birth, like, a lot of people say you'll lose all sense of modesty when you're in labor because you're in so much pain you don't think about it. No, I definitely didn't. The whole time I was in the tub, I wore a sports bra, and I also had them put like a towel over my butt and things because I was kind of on all fours. Even when I got up in the bed, I would say the only time I lost sense of modesty would be when I was pushing him out. Like, other than that, I wanted covered up the whole time. But I still had a sense of like self. It's really weird because I feel like you see people who completely just they're not aware.
Yeah.
Like, I remember looking at the
You're
clock.
able to control yourself.
I remember looking at the clock when she would check and be like, okay, that's that time. Okay, like, in between contractions, I would be joking and asking the midwife if she had like some back pain, and I'm talking to her about it. Like, and this was at 8-9 centimeters, so it's really weird. It wasn't what I expected in any way, shape, or form. Like, it was way more painful than I expected. Awful. Like, I joke that most people, I feel like, who do a natural birth think, okay, I did that once, I can do it again, I'm so strong. I feel the opposite, where I'm like, no, I've done that, and it was horrible and traumatizing. No, I mean, I think if we had another, I would probably try a natural birth again, but gosh, I definitely don't feel that sense of like, that I can do that. Like, again, I'm like, oh heck no, that was the scariest thing I've ever done in my life and the most painful thing I've ever done in my life. Yeah. I think too, like, I thought I would be really mean during labor, like towards you or the midwives. And I think for the most part, I contained myself because I was really aware of that. I didn't want to be mean or like, you know, like you see these videos, people being really catty. I think the meanest I got was going, shh, like, yeah. Like if they'd be talking or joking during a contraction, I'd go, shh, like I wanted them to be quiet. And I thought I would want music too. And we started out with some soft, like Pandora in the background. No, that didn't last long. I needed to focus, you know, and I needed them talking to me. I needed like the midwife, it was so cool because she would like breathe with me. She, like if I'm like freaking out going, she would be like going, like she'd help slow me down and, you know, like help me gain control, which let me just say too, I never thought like this would happen, but I definitely would panic. There were certain contractions where it was so painful and so excruciating that a sense of sheer fear and panic would take over. And I remember saying like, I remember going, I'm scared. And they'd be like, what are you scared about? And I'm like, I don't want to push him out. Like pushing him out was the scariest thought to me, like pushing his head out. And I remember I'd be like, I don't think I said I can't do this a ton. I said it a couple times and they were like, but you are doing it. You are doing it. Like they would encourage me. But I remember saying I'm scared. And they were like, that part's going to be easy, which no, it wasn't. I mean, it was nice to finally like be able to work towards getting him out, but no, that part wasn't easy. But what else did I say? I'm trying to think. Yeah, I never said the word epidural, and I think had I said that, I definitely would have given in. You kept telling me that I was made to do this, which was really cool.
Yeah, I pretty much didn't say a whole lot other than just trying to encourage her and telling her to breathe.
And you're telling me I was doing good.
Yeah, you're doing really good. Almost there. Probably said those things each, probably like 10 to 100 times.
10 to 100, that's a big gap. A lot. And I remember sometimes in my head being mad when he'd be like, you're doing great. I wanted to be like, how do you know what great is? You don't know what this feels like. I remember in my head, I'd be thinking those things. And I remember at one point, I would look at him and this like, I'd be like, or what did I say? I'd be like, this is really bad. And I know that he thought I was thinking like, I want an epidural. And he would look at me and he'd go, there's no other option.
Yeah. No. She was definitely tempted to get it.
I never said it, but he knew by the look in my eye.
I wasn't going to let her, period.
Yeah.
Her birth coach, we weren't able to get her on board.
The doula, we ended up canceling the doula. Yeah.
And so I figured that's kind of my job now, is to fight for her rights and what she wanted. And that was just that. And so it wasn't an option for
But when
me.
he'd say there's no other... When he would say there's no other option in my head, I wanted to like cuss him out in my head. Like, just like yell at, like I wanted to yell at him really bad, but I never said it though. I think it was the look in my eyes. I'm like, this is really bad. And he knows I'm thinking like, I think part of me wanted him to go, if you want to get it, you should do. I wanted him to make it okay for me to give up, Which, let me just say, if somebody out there is watching, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with getting an epidural. That's not what this is about. But for me, I waited so long and to have this baby and to have the birth I wanted that it was just really important for me to have a natural labor. So that's our birth story. And I forgot to say it, but again, his name's Abram Levi. He was born July 20th. He was 7 pounds, 10 ounces, and he was 19 inches long. Which is crazy because he came 2 weeks early. So that's quite a big baby for 2 weeks early. We cannot imagine if he had stayed in any longer. That would have been crazy. We are gonna do another video with a slideshow of some of the pictures and some of the clips from the birth, but that will be a whole separate video. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching and for praying for us and following our journey.
Yeah, take care.